Shuen Palmer,
Yes.
you are certainly a good friend of all Hong Kong citizens, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as you're concerned, yes.
Okay, there's a reason for I said that. Simply because you had spent a conscientious amount of time actually to evaluate what is in front of us. Okay, and you had come to a conclusion which shocked me. Okay, and I'm sure, as to me, you're a futuristic guy. You actually look philosophically and practically and realize you're heading nowhere in Hong Kong.
Well, I made a prediction, yes.
Yeah, you made a projection, you add on it. You had all my respect because there are people who can plan and philosophize things. They never put their words into action. You're one of the few, okay, as big as I am leaving Hong Kong, for Christ's sake, okay? Everybody I want to go to Hong Kong. You say, I am leaving. The reason is not because I don't make enough money, because there is problem I cannot help any further. All right, if I got that right, this book, this policy agenda, just recently come to view, and I wonder how many people have read this in Hong Kong.
Well, for all of you who are not familiar with Hong Kong, the policy address is sort of like the State of the Union that's delivered by the President of the United States. It lays out the policy objectives, in fact, even policy details for the upcoming foreseeable future of a certain administration. And this particular policy address delivered a couple of days ago is going to be our Chief Executive C.Y. Leung's last one, or actually second last one, but last one for practical purposes, before his election.
Well, yeah,
before his election. Well, I don't even know what it's called. What's that called?
Well, it's a pseudo election, but according to C.Y. Leung last night on public TV, and he had claimed that if he's not chosen to be the chief executive the way it was, okay, nevertheless, he thinks he's still the most popular.
He would have won if there was genuine universal suffrage in 2012.
Oh, come on.
That was the exact quote he said.
Yeah.
I don't actually disagree with it.
Why?
I don't actually.
What makes him qualified to say that so?
Because if you were to look back to 2012, that was at the crest of the left-wing socialism bubble in Hong Kong, and out of all the three candidates, he was the only one that ticked all the boxes, and was also more enthusiastic in social spending. So if he by simply seizing the most vocal opposition support, which is the socialists in Hong Kong, the Progressive Democrats, he would have won. I don't actually dispute that. So, people get elected all the time. The entire point of genuine universal suffrage is to have the opportunity to throw them out of office if they, one, fail to meet expectations, or two, perform poorly. So, I don't doubt for a fact that he would have won. In fact, even today, I still joke that I'm still in Henry Tang, his opponent in 2012's camp. I'm in Henry Tang's camp.
So what you're saying that
I wasn't
he's qualified to say so?
Oh, of course, I don't dispute the fact that he could have won.
Okay. All right.
So we'll start from that. But this particular policy address, it's very thick. You can see the font size is not very big, and he read through the entire book. That's the entire point of the policy address. It was about an hour and a half long. So I understand that there was many policies laid out, and led to many questions from the good doctor here.
Well, questions I have. I want to ask you specifically as an analyst. Number one, okay, when it comes, let's forget whether you have read this or have you not, where other people read it. The gist of the whole thing is, this is our part. This money belongs to Hong Kong. This is the way we're going to spend it. Okay, my problem, okay, is not with how you're going to take care of the elders and how you're going to take care of future doctors. Okay, my question on the main ballparks from the economic point of view. I want to know, okay, for example, in this policy agenda, okay, could you pinpoint to us, will there be any money left?
I'm not going to be that cynical because ultimately in government spending, the chief executive still has to go through our financial secretary, John Zhang, and he has been a strict guardian of our public expenditure.
Right.
In the sense that he abhors spending that is recurring. He basically stopped universal pension in its tracks, and he also he's more lenient towards one-off spending, and hence over the years you've seen Hong Kong indulge in many rounds of I would call wasteful infrastructure projects. That is probably why. So if you say any money left, I'm still optimistic. Even with this particular policy address, there will be money left. But I would say that this is a very rare case in which we might have seen the incentives align between Beijing, our chief executive's own political career, and the future of the people of Hong Kong.
Are you saying that in Chinese usually we said 其人將去其言也善? Could that be what?
My Chinese is not good enough to understand that.
Oh, okay. Well, the guy is going to be a bygone soon. Okay?
Well, actually, no. Well,
so he left a few good words.
Well, I'm grudgingly. I'm not going to compliment him. Of course not. But I would say that this might be a rare case in which the incentives are aligning. If you watched the previous episodes done between me and the good doc here, you would have known that I laid out my hypothesis that Hong Kong's way of life, ever since the fall of the British Empire, since the 1940s, right, has been maintained because of the active protection from the Chinese Communist Party.
Right.
The highest powers.
Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with the, please
click here.
Yeah, click here. eetvhk. We had it well explained. In fact, for all students, all people who pay any attention to Hong Kong, including your future, it's to your benefit to click here to read what had been said by this man here.
The previous episode, I said that in the Korean War, we exhibited with our free port policy that even with the United Nations embargo on China, on Red China, Hong Kong acted as a import-export smuggling port for lots of resources, including medicine, clothing, some would say even munition. And we shipped a lot of this stuff into China, and therefore the Chinese Communist Party realized that with the existence of Hong Kong as a British colony, there is no value to Hong Kong as part of China. Only as a British colony with a three-part policy does it actually help the one-party rule of China. And when it came to Deng Xiaoping, he did not introduce one country, two system because of an altruistic reason, but because he felt that only with Hong Kong as a capitalist common law jurisdiction would it help with the economic reform and solve the economic weakness of China that was becoming a national security threat. And with time is being now, China's economy being what it is now, Hong Kong is no longer needed, and therefore the highest powers within the Chinese Communist Party no longer pays the same amount of attention to Hong Kong, and therefore the frontline government officials sent here and the local communist proxies are running wild. Even if the Chinese Communist Party's highest powers right now wants to keep Hong Kong as is, wants to respect one country, two system, but because they're no longer paying the necessary attention, the constant attack on one country, two system no longer has that shield provided. So that was the thesis. And why I said this particular policy address aligns the incentives of all three. I would say that what the people of Hong Kong wants is, of course, a continuation of one country, two system.
Right.
What CY Leung wants is the further continuation of his political career. Right? He only has one master, which is Beijing. So therefore, he wants to serve Beijing.
Well, that's given. There's no right or wrong. That's the way it's going
That's
to
the
be.
way it is, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore, why did I say the incentives are aligned? Because in this particular policy address, the phrase Belt and Road, or in Chinese, 一帶一路, was mentioned 42 times.
Yeah, you better explain that to us in more clearer terms. I had questions about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Belt and Road is a scheme in which, on the surface, is China being a good neighbor and lending money to neighboring countries with a lack of infrastructure and helping them build their infrastructure. Where it's power stations, it could be highways, it could be telecom networks, all kinds of infrastructure projects. Okay, that is the idea on the surface. The reason why the Communist Party is pushing this, the Communist Party never do anything that doesn't do itself any good, right? So it's not really for an altruistic motive. It's because China currently suffers from massive overcapacity in all kinds of industries. Okay.
Right.
And the biggest problem with overcapacity is that these overcapacity was built with borrowed money from banks, and because these factories are idle, are not productive, and therefore these factories can't service their debts. I think it was Alexander Hamilton or William Jefferson that said that he fears bankers more than neighboring countries standing armies.
I think Jefferson.
Yeah. Right? He fears bankers more than standing armies of neighboring countries as a threat to the republic, because all it takes is one banking crisis to really end your rule. If you went down to Jakarta in early 1997 and asked anyone in the streets of Indonesia how long would the Suharto regime stay in power for, they will look at you and they will give you a quizzical look and say they will be around forever. Even if the old man goes, his son or daughter will take over. And even if you follow up with the question, well, there's going to be a banking crisis in Indonesia coming, are you scared for Suharto? They will still shrug. Right? If you do the same experiment in China right now, ask anyone in China, including Hong Kong, how long do you think the Chinese Communist Party will stay in power for? And they will say forever. Right? That's the consensus, right? For the foreseeable future anyways, if not forever, right? But there is a banking crisis looming in China, and the Chinese leadership, for whatever fault they have, they are all very good students of history. They know that under one party, nothing ends one-party states. No matter if it's democratic, like it was in Japan in the late 1980s or early 1990s, whether it's Indonesia, where it's capitalistic and authoritarian, or whether it's the Soviet Union, where it's planned economy but also totalitarian, if there is a misallocation of capital leading to a fall in the return on these capital, and therefore these capital being destroyed, eventually the biggest threat would be to the ruling party itself. So therefore the number one priority for China, for the Chinese Communist Party, if they want to maintain control, is to solve the bad debt problem.
Of course.
And therefore, if the one Belt and Road scheme were to work, and if it does work, what would happen is that these countries that receive these aid and have the infrastructure built, hopefully would generate enough return from these infrastructure projects, liberate their economy, and make it as productive as possible to generate the return to repay back China. Because the Chinese government knows that within mainland China's borders, any additional unit of investment no longer generates the return in which it can service the debts and therefore prevent the bad debts from happening.
I see. Now this is the economic view on the so-called new beltway system.
Right.
Let's make it easy. It's just a beltway.
Well, it's not actually a beltway. It's simply a string of countries that was labeled as the Silk Road or the Maritime Silk Road, and therefore it looks like a belt. So the Belt and Road is actually just a graphical drawing of the areas involved. But at least that's the grand plan, to use the Belt and Road scheme to solve partly the bad debt situation in China, and therefore protect the Communist Party, one-party dictatorship. So therefore, why did I say the incentives are aligned? Is because if Hong Kong can play a crucial part in solving this bad debt crisis, and therefore solidify the one-party rule in China, then the Chinese Communist Party's highest powers would then have the incentive to protect one country.
So your thesis earlier that Hong Kong is no longer that important now is important because of this.
We don't know yet. Because
so
even
there's a chance.
If you looked at the policy address and
right.
you know, I don't know, maybe a third of it was on One Belt, One Road.
Right.
Right. None of the schemes sound as if it's going to be the silver bullet.
Well, there are. It hits me very hard this time.
Right.
Okay, because I'm not an economist. I'm just a plain old scientist.
Right,
but
I'll give you. Yeah. You're a scientist. You're good with numbers, right? So I'll give you the numbers to scale. To scale.
Yeah.
Hong Kong has about the fiscal reserves. We don't have a national debt. Over the years, we've accumulated a huge amount of fiscal reserves. Our fiscal reserves is about $1 trillion Hong Kong dollars. Okay?
Yeah, right.
1 trillion Hong Kong dollars.
Right.
The bad debts in China, with the most pessimistic estimate, is about 5 trillion US dollars. So it's about 44 trillion Hong Kong dollars.
Right.
So for all those people that says they're going to take our fiscal reserves to recapitalize their banks, forget it. Because 7 million people's fiscal reserves is not going to help 1.4 billion people's bad debts. We simply don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Even though we are like many times their wealth, right? We still don't have enough because we're only 7 million people. They have 1.4 billion. We're only 0.5% of the population, right? So we're only 1/44th. We only have 1/44th the capital.
So your thesis that Hong Kong is going to be peripherized?
I don't know yet. This is the tricky part.
Yeah.
Today I come up to this show not to make. I can't make this prediction because I can't see it myself. All the schemes that was announced by the chief executive does not go towards. I mean, it pays a lot of attention to Belt and Road, but I don't see it as a silver bullet to help the bad debt crisis. But at least Beijing understands that we are on it, right? It might not be effective, and to be honest, if we prove to be ineffective, it would seal our fate, because if we can't even help them on the one thing that we're supposed to be good at, which is financial markets.
No. I got to correct that. Not that you're wrong, okay? But I suspect, through my reading, Hong Kong is contributing to the whole scenario a little bit more than just finance, okay? And I think skill and technology still counts. That is what I suspect why the ITB is going to be around.
Well, if you talk about the know-how of building a highway, in fact, yes, Hong Kong people are known for building highways.
High rises as well.
High rises as well, but
reliable high rises.
If you talk about, let's take highway, because that was going to be one of the key types of infrastructure projects. There's a company in Hong Kong called Hopewell Holdings. Right? Hopewell Holdings was known very famously to have been one of the earliest highway construction companies in China. It was also an active construction company in places like Thailand prior to the 1997 Asian financial crisis. So we do have that know-how, but it's not going to be the know-how that I think is going to be the biggest contribution, because the mainland Chinese do have their own know-how. They will probably not give us that particular, because there is no point in trying to give us that contract, because they think they have the know-how. So our biggest contribution is going to be this. This is going to be the particular problem that China needs solving. Once the money is lent to these countries, sovereign governments, for them to build their infrastructure projects, right? They're going to build that infrastructure project, but who is going to make sure that it's going to be built on time? Maybe mainland China themselves, fine. But once a return is generated, how is the Chinese government going to make sure that the loans given to these countries are going to be repaid on time? The risk management, the capital flow, the wiring of money, that is going to be the crucial role that I think Hong Kong is going to play. At least can help with. I can't see what kind of edge we have versus other countries, but perhaps maybe the high-ranking government officials in these respective countries would be corrupted, pocket some of the loans, and therefore need a place to launder their money. That could be a Hong Kong expertise. But with the ever clamping down on these kind of activities by the Hong Kong authorities themselves, even this particular advantage is being eroded right now. So I don't know what kind of role we're going to play, but at least right now the incentives are aligned. But as there is a saying, right? The mind is willing, but the flesh is weak. So therefore, even if we are willing to cooperate, even if we have the full incentive to cooperate to achieve the national goal of China, which is rare. But even if we have that incentive, we might not be able to do it. But at least...
Well, it tried. I mean, if you take a look at the stress that's being placed on the ITB, the innovation and technology, in other words, Hong Kong is trying to reinvent or reindustrialize Hong Kong. Now, could you explain to us the meaning of Hong Kong had lost its industry in the past decades or so, okay? We had zero clothing company. We no longer have, we don't manufacture anything.
I don't think that's a big problem. If you look at Silicon Valley, there's plenty of semiconductor chips firm that has no fabrication plants either. I'm not worried at all about these kind of things. People always say, if you talk about the ITV, are we going to start a new section now? Are we done with the...
No, I just wanted to, because
the ITV,
silver bullets.
If you think the ITV is going to play no role. The ITV is completely insignificant. The ITV stands for
we're talking about a lot of money here.
Well, it stands for the Information Technology Bureau, right?
Right.
It's gonna get how much? 5 billion. So it's about 800 million US dollars, right?
Well, let's use Hong Kong.
800 million US dollars can't even get you into the IPO of Uber.
So in other words, it won't make a dent.
It's not gonna make a... As I always say, if you look at all the statistics, this is a favorite of academics in Hong Kong. I'm sorry, Captain. But all these academics in Hong Kong always say, you look at the GDP, percentage of GDP dedicated to Hong Kong's research and development, right? It's like a pittance. Less than 1%, or something very low. You look at Taiwan, you look at South Korea, wow, they have like percentage, many percent of their GDP towards R&D. I'm sorry, but the accounting of research and development has always been skewed in Hong Kong because we don't do it through academia. Okay, we don't do it through a research lab. Right? As I always said, the strongest engineering that Hong Kong people do is industrial operations engineering. When a man stands at a fast food store in Hong Kong, when the boss stands at the fast food store in Hong Kong, look at the manufacturing of a fried chicken leg, right? And he somehow thinks of a new way to fry that chicken leg and lowers the cost by half. That particular effort,
as long as it's not intoxicating the rest of us.
But hold on, that particular process is not accounted into the research and development statistics. But yet he has already lowered costs. He has made Hong Kong more productive, right? He's producing the same goods and services for lower costs. Isn't that a good example of how we're miscalculating all this? I mean, Hong Kong do not lack capital, okay? Hong Kong don't even lack ideas. People of Hong Kong is such a vibrant economy because we take action into we put action into our ideas. People come together and start
just like you.
Business. Right.
Exactly. You're the Hong Kong boy.
Right. I mean,
typical.
There's now increasing regulation on fundraising. Crowdsourcing, for example, is illegal in Hong Kong. Hong Kong people don't wait. We have ideas. We have capital. We have plenty of capital. Hong Kong has 10 times per capita in bank deposits, right? 10 times our GDP per capita in bank deposits. More than any other jurisdictions in the world. So
well,
much
actually more
than
most other citizens of the world. Because you can talk to almost anybody off the street. They own a couple flats, which worth a couple million US dollars.
Right.
I mean, this is routine, everybody.
Hong Kong consistently have more business registration done. A business registration is what you get when you want to start a business, right? Hong Kong every year has more business registration than babies born, for goodness sakes. We start businesses all the time. We don't lack ideas, we don't lack capital.
You really don't need the
of course we don't need
ITP.
it. I mean, the government gave $2 billion to a venture capital fund, controlled by the government. I mean, what are they going to invest in? Are they going to invest in Uber? Or something similar?
No, Uber just got caught, excuse me.
Whereby every single startup, right, is challenging or subverting the current order. And therefore it will be directly challenging some sort of regulations in Hong Kong.
Right.
And therefore the government's not going to be challenging that.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they're going to be. I mean, this is just stupid. But anyways, it was suggested to them from economists of major institutions, so they're doing it because Hong Kong as a percentage of R&D, a percentage of GDP, the research and development percentage is very, very low. So that's why they're they're just doing it. Completely stupid.
Well,
that's not even. Well, we can afford to lose a billion here, a billion there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, now we address the issue of One Belt, One Road. Okay, sort of. Now,
well, the conclusion to One Belt, One Road is very simple. No silver bullets announced in the policy address, but at least the incentives are aligned.
But it's going on. It's going to go.
It's going to go. We don't. I mean, it depends. There are lots of pessimists in Hong Kong that think that the One Belt, One Road scheme is not even going to take off. There will be no projects ever done. Right. Because they simply cannot solve the question of how these countries, after borrowing, after construction of these infrastructure projects, are going to make repayment.
No.
Right? There's a reason
I'm
why.
going to ask you to repeat this phrase again because this is vital. Okay, vital for Hong Kong to realize.
Right. The One Belt, One Road scheme, a lot of pessimists say might not even going to happen. There will be no projects done because they can't solve the problem of how these countries, once they've borrowed the money to build their infrastructure, repay their loans. We have had 8 years of 0% interest rates around the world. And yet, if these infrastructure are still not built, there must be some inherent governing problems with these countries that makes creditors, well, scared. So, therefore, there are this One Belt, One Road. I can't see it happening. I'm a futurist, yes, but I still can't see it happening yet. Therefore, I can't even see how Hong Kong can play a part.
Well, in this book, there's a very, it has been very stressed upon certain points.
Yes.
One point that's been made no mistake, Lantau Island is going to be developed and thus being the futuristic view of Hong Kong.
Well,
now,
I don't know.
Do you have any comment on that?
I to be honest, it's logical. It's logical to build in Lantau Island because there is a lot of land on Lantau.
Right.
But it's also very mountainous.
Right.
So the cost is going to be very high. I don't know whether it's going to be successful or not.
No, that's not how they're going to do it. Okay. They're not going to tackle with the high mountains. They're going to do landfill.
Yes, reclaim.
Because you can control the sea level that way. You can control the road and the construction. So they took shortcut. I figured that out. You can't head up the mountain and just flatten it. It ain't gonna work.
Well, we did so for one of the islands of Lantau to build our airports.
Yeah, but now they're going to. Don't forget they do landfill. Right. That's what they're going to do.
Those are the days without environmental assessment.
When the government is spending such huge money, it will revitalize the economy somewhat, because government spending is very important in terms of recirculating and reuse the money.
Well, the government, unfortunately, that's the Keynesian view, right?
Right.
You know, even if the government hires people to dig a hole and refill it, even though it serves no economic purpose, someone gets hired, he spends money, right? That's the Keynesian. Right. It's complete economic policy. I am an Austrian school economist. I don't abhor government spending because I think it's always going to be wasteful. It's going to always destroy capital. Leave it in the hands of a private firm so that they can take the risks themselves. The development of Lantau Island as a way to revitalize Hong Kong's economy, I think it's complete and utter waste.
Listen carefully. Repeat that again. The development of Lantau Island is
a waste of money. It's
a waste of money.
Right. At least government-led development of Lantau Island, because all they need to do is really, honestly, build some roads and then zone the land and auction it off. But Hong Kong's economy doesn't need revitalizing right now.
Well, basically, what you're saying with this kind of mentality, it's going to bankrupt Hong Kong.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because selling land in Hong Kong is, ever since the 1840s, has been the main revenue source for the Hong Kong government. If they can sell more land for more productive uses, is not a bad thing. So, I'm not going to be too harsh on that particular one, but in view that C.Y. Leung's first term is going to be ending in less than 14 months, I do question how, why is he announcing it now? It's like, you've only got 14 months. How you gonna put dynamite all over Lantown? How are you gonna do this?
Well, actually,
from a political reality point of view, why are you announcing this now?
I actually went to one of these briefing by the myself. I went to the briefing by the Environment and Conservation section.
Oh, okay.
I actually sit there for the entire session.
So how many people were there? Was it
load with people. There are most of the people there are. They have.
Is it in a lecture hall or is it in a round table?
It's a lecture. It's a training room. The floor. Okay, in the executive building.
Because I went to see the financial secretary on behalf of my think tank.
Yeah, I'm thinking about they had addressed a lot of issues, but one of the big issues that came up is that, look, we don't have that much time left, and this session of the LEGO is going to be over,
right?
And everything have to start again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But what was achieved is there's a lot of good achievement. For example, moving along with how to clean up the trashes and all that, but those is not going to solve the economy of Hong Kong.
Why do you think the economy of Hong Kong needs government help to be solved? What is wrong with Hong Kong's economy?
Explain that a little further.
I mean, you say that we need to help the economy. We have 3% unemployment rate.
Right.
Right? The insane property prices is caused by a monetary policy in which is beyond our control. Right?
Yeah, but it goes up, it'll come down.
Yeah, sure. When it comes down, then we'll people of Hong Kong will figure out a way. I mean, the thing is, the most important thing is get the government out of the economy, because the more they do, the more they're going to plan. The more government plans, the less planning an individual can do.
Now, you know why I want you to say that? Okay?
Yeah.
I have been talking about, sort of naively say, look, okay, I don't like big government. Okay? People got the people's way. For example, wages, okay? The government can force, minimum wage. Actually, even the government don't do anything based on supply and demand. Okay, based on the general economy, it's going to go its own way.
Yes.
Okay, unless if you look at this section when it comes to human right, okay, it got only a paragraph about this big. Okay, in other words, Hong Kong government better pay attention to the human right issue within Hong Kong, then to lay the hands to start a big government.
Well,
okay.
If you talk about human rights, I mean, I always say liberty is the greatest human right. Right? Liberty is not only just freedom.
It's the fundamental right.
Right. It's not only just freedom. It's the ability to suffer the consequences or enjoy the consequences of your choices.
Autonomy.
Right. Individual autonomy. And
right.
Hong Kong had a proud tradition of that. But yes, we have introduced things like competition law, whereby raising prices might be illegal. Cutting prices might be illegal. Maintaining prices at this level might be illegal. Then we have introduced things like the minimum wage, which completely obliterated the apprentice system, the informal apprentice system in Hong Kong. We are encroaching more and more into a status affair. In fact, the entire world is getting more and more status. So, I bear no hope for the young people. Not only in Hong Kong, but around the world. And you will see angrier and angrier people, the young. But unfortunately, they are becoming less and less numerous because most societies are aging. And therefore, the power of coercion, even in a democratic society, will be in the hands of the older folks, which want stability.
We're codifying this society left and right everywhere.
Yes, codifying would be a good word. And unfortunately, this is the biggest problem. When you not only codify, but you also enforce those codes. Hong Kong people are Hong Kong government is extremely efficient in enforcement, right? It wasn't so during the colonial era. In the colonial era, it was laughed at as a lame duck. I don't know.
Yeah, in colonial era, they don't have enough manpower to do what they want.
Well, the reason is because if you don't enforce laws and everything becomes, in effect, legal, then it lends that particular place maximum flexibility to respond to whatever need surrounding areas have. For example, during the Korean War, if we enforce the United Nations embargo, which we had to because we were part of the British Empire, the United Nations passed that particular embargo. If the officers at the north of Hong Kong were efficient in stopping the smuggling operations, we'll be overrun by the People's Liberation Army within days. But yet, because they were ineffective, they let the smuggling happen, we were saved.
Well,
I understand.
Right or wrong.
Right? No. That is what I'm talking about. When you talk about good governance and empire games, right? Sometimes the greatest players of these empire games, especially when you're dealt with a weak hand, of representing 7 million Hong Kong people, right? I mean, compared to 1.4 billion people, we basically have a weak hand. And in order to play this game, you have to be very, very smart. And one of the ways that the British colonial government did it was to be as laissez-faire as possible. If they can have plausible deniability of whatever's happening down there on the front lines, right? Then the Chinese Communist Party can use Hong Kong as its wish, and therefore keep it intact as is.
Well,
now that we codify everything, it's no longer as useful to China. That's the biggest problem. That is the crux of the problem. Yet, if you go out to the streets of Hong Kong and say, you know what, maybe we should start demanding the government to be less effective, to codify less. The people of Hong Kong don't understand how to play this game, and that's why I'm emigrating. Because people of Hong Kong, even with universal suffrage, we were doomed, because this trend of codifying more and more enforcement is going to happen, because that's what the people of Hong Kong thinks is effective government.
Well, my problem with this book is basically the pie we have left is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we have more and more effective government control.
Yes.
In other words, hands-free, man. Okay, hands off, I would say. Hands off.
But it's going to be hard. The trend is not our friend.
But the trend is not just in Hong Kong. In United Kingdom, it's the same way.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And in United States, it's also the same way. Everything's being in fine print.
But you understand, from our perspective from Hong Kong, we are still the freest economy in the world. In fact, the reason why we punch so much higher than our weight, right, is because of the status. Freedom-loving people around the world look at Hong Kong as a shining city on the hill that inspires.
Well, it still is.
That is like the beacon of freedom for them to learn from. And yet, look, this is how we commit policy suicide. Lantau
Island, my headache, Hong Kong's headache.
Well, you gotta be fair. I don't know if you're a property owner, but if you have height restrictions on buildings, if you have bans on land reclamation, if you have bans on taking greenfield sites for development, where's going to be the new flats coming from? Everyone wants more living space, right? And therefore, what's going to happen is that every year there'll be more and more demand and more purchasing power created for for living space, right? But because new living space is not created, incumbent living space prices will eventually rise up, and therefore benefit the people who own properties, and they happen to be mostly all the people who had bought prior, right? And therefore increasing the intergenerational strife in Hong Kong. But I understand Doctor is a big environmentalist who's opposed to development of greenfield sites, who I think is sympathetic towards height restrictions on buildings, who I think don't really like.
I am very concerned in let me brief you. Maybe you listen for just a few seconds. Okay, I had a huge headache when the way Hong Kong people have been so naive when it comes to air quality index. In general, when you talk to anybody, okay, they say, well, Hong Kong's air quality index is not so good, but this is the way it is. They didn't realize that 30% of the cancer came from it. Okay, they didn't. And worst of them all, this book talking about how to take care of the elders. I went to visit and look at huge number of these elderly homes. Right? You know what happened? They had the windows open in the most dirtiest street. Okay? And elderly people are the most sensitive people to air quality indexing. None of these people realize that. You advise them, you talk to them, tomorrow you go to take a look, all the windows are open. Why? Because it's a Hong Kong way. They save money for air conditioning. And the elders need filtered air, not dirty air. And this is what pisses me off, to put it more bluntly. And then more so, they want to spend a lot of money trying to, or attempted to, build a hospital called Chinese Herbal Medical Doctors Hospital. I have nothing against Chinese doctors. Herbal medicine had always been the basis for all medicine, East and West. The Western medicine is the same way as the Chinese medicine, except that when it comes to heart attack, when it comes to operation, when it comes to bone setting sometimes. Okay?
The biggest problem with Chinese herbal medicine,
Right.
or Chinese medicine generally, or Chinese pharmaceutical, right? Chinese style,
Right.
is the lack of double-blind placebo tests. How do you test?
Granted that.
How do you test the efficacy?
Well,
How do you test the effectiveness? How do you test dosage? I mean, you understand there's something called the heat and cool effect, right? Heat, hate, and learn, right? I always ask myself, well, people always tell me that if I eat, say, mangoes, lychees, or durian, fruits that you find in the Far East, that it's supposed to be heat, hate, right? So what is?
It's not explained. Excuse me.
It's not explained. But it's not explained. But it doesn't matter. It could be just observed. But my question is, drinking yasei mei is supposed to be learned, right? Or gai yi dou, right? Which is supposed to be remove the heat.
No, the Chinese medicine never says that. Excuse me. It's your misconception. Yeah.
Because I always says, if I eat two mangoes,
Right.
how many cups of yasei mei do I have to drink to neutralize it?
Well,
In Western medicine, they'll tell you, right?
Don't carry this wrong message. When they kept say 2 mangoes, which says to me, okay, you are having a chemical stress within you because there's huge amount of sugar, sucrose you consumed.
Right.
Okay, and the decomposition and the burning away of these sugar, which causes what we call a chemical stress within you, and this chemical stress is known as eat hay to a certain extent.
Okay, right.
It has nothing to
Yes,
do with yasei
but
mei.
there are other fruits that has high level of sucrose too, right?
Not
Yet they do.
necessarily.
Yet Chinese medicine don't consider them eat hay, right?
There are different types of sugar. Just because you don't understand the nature of the sugar, it does not mean that they have to, you know what I mean.
So therefore,
Yeah.
I always say the fundamental problem with Chinese medicine is a lack of the 3 rounds, with the final round especially being the double-blind
Well, the
test.
herbal medical doctors should pay attention to this. They should learn the basis of carbohydrate metabolism.
They should learn the basis of the scientific process. I don't care about your theories.
Yeah.
Test it. Whatever theory it is, just test it empirically so we can get some data. No data, you can't manage, right?
Well, actually, I spent months, to research on one topic in Chinese medicine, the use of copper coins, okay?
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
the use of copper coins in Chinese medicine, which is so ridiculous, until 1600,
Right.
okay? All coins got lead in it,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And how the hell you can use lead corn to ask people to consume the thing, or burn it, or make medicine out of it?
Well,
Because
You
the
gotta
Chinese respect for tradition, when in front of hardcore science, is no meaning.
well, all I can say is maybe life expectancy back then was so short that, lead poisoning, it's not going to kill you. Something else will. Maybe that something else was prevented by the lead in the copper coins. I don't know. It's only a hypothesis.
Let's don't get into that. We're talking
We'll stick with the
about
positives.
we're talking about this guy. Okay. I would like to finish this off, okay, with your view, an overall view, okay, as a summary. Are we spending our money wisely?
Of course not.
Of course not.
But
Why not?
The question. For example, we should in education we should be spending money in sending our
Right on,
children
education.
abroad.
What about
Forget
the
about
Chinese
university.
hospital?
The hospital let the free market rule. I mean, even when according to official statistics, Hong Kong only spends 5% of GDP on medical care, right? Compared to what, 18 or 19%.
But Hong Kong needs more medical doctors. Let's
Hold on,
admit it.
no. You look at objective statistics. Hong Kong has the highest life expectancy in the world for both sexes.
Right.
So whatever we're doing is correct.
Right.
We didn't license our Chinese doctors before, right?
Right.
Maybe that's the way to go.
Well, Chinese doctor are very good in Yangsang.
We can argue about why, but I'm simply saying that, you know, we are not spending the amount of money correctly. You know, we have the biggest problem is whenever government takes action on a certain issue, the biggest signal it sends to the people is that it now becomes responsible for that problem. You know, Tocqueville spent many months, I guess, or years, in America as a French tourist, right, in the 19th century. And he said that the success of America, well, he didn't use the word success, I guess, but this is the biggest difference between America and Europe, continental Europe, is that in America, at the head of every single problem, tackling that problem, would be citizens forming a spontaneous organization. You know, if it's because of environmental destructions, they came together to form the Sierra Club, for example. If it's, you know, the blind, people getting, you know, can't see, then it will be the Lions.
Well, actually, yeah, it's never really the government. It's always actually
that was at least the 19th century.
Well,
but
even now,
in continental Europe, the organization in charge of tackling every social problem is the state, and on the level of both efficiency and efficacy, right? America wins because of this spontaneous, of these enthusiastic and concerned citizens coming together to form their own organization. And that was the success of Hong Kong. And every time the Hong Kong government takes more action, it assumes more and more responsibilities, and therefore, you know, Hong Kong people used to love giving to charities, think that it's time to give back. Nowadays, especially after a few waves of economic hardship in Hong Kong, I'm sure Leung is a good example, because Leung used to be on the board of directors of one of Hong Kong's leading orphanages, right? Right?
Well, she still contributes, even now. You know.
She now contributes nothing to orphanages or to like hospitals. She now creates independent media. Like
she still gives off hundreds of bags of rice every month. Every month for the past half decade.
Yes,
right?
But do you see starving people on the streets of Hong Kong?
No.
I'm simply saying, you know, the more government assumes responsibility.
You know, I like to conclude this session by giving you a picture. Okay, a picture I can describe to you. Time and again, it hits me and it hits my heart. When I walk on Jordan Road, I've noticed at least 3 elderly over 90-year-olds. They had their back bent 90 degrees due to the lack of medical advice, okay, from whoever. But all these 3 elderly people are pushing a dirty cart, okay, accumulating paper waste, cardboards, to sell for dimes and nickels, okay, pennies. And these people, I talked to them myself. I asked them, why didn't you go out and ask the government for help? He says, I am independent. This is the spirit of Hong Kong. They have the bent back, they are elderly, they went through the hardship of World War I, II, and perhaps in the future, 3. Okay? And yet, okay, they have all my respect. Okay, because they are willing to pick up the dirt, clean up the road, sell their effort, okay?
Help with the recycling effort.
And, you know, Hong Kong, without government interference.
Well, actually, government's interfering.
No. The policemen are wise enough not to touch them. Okay? Well, even the government have rules against them.
According to the younger generation in Hong Kong, it's very shameful that these old people still choose to work.
No, they actually, one lady, she's a millionaire, excuse me. Okay? But she's over 94 years old. She had her back bent. She continued to work the way she had been.
Yeah, but you understand, working for the older generation is a badge of honor. Being productive. For the young people, work is something that is undesirable.
So with that remark, I want to advise the people of Hong Kong, with your words, our future may be dim. There might be hope. There might be chances, but not in this damn book. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.